The alarm bells screamed through the command center on Earth. Red lights flashed across every screen as Admiral Kate Sullivan stared at the incoming message. Her hands shook as she read the words again and again. New Vermont was under attack. 2 million people lived on that distant colony world. Farmers, teachers, children, families who had traveled across the stars to build new lives. Now alien warships surrounded their planet like hungry wolves circling sheep. How many ships? Admiral, Sullivan asked the young officer beside her. 47 enemy vessels, ma'am. All Zephyrian design. They've given the colonists 12 hours to surrender or face complete destruction. The Admiral closed her eyes. 47 ships. The largest alien fleet ever assembled against humanity. Every military expert said the Zephyrians were unbeatable. Their plasma weapons could melt through any armor. Their shields could stop any human missile. Colony after colony had fallen to them in the past year. What forces do we have in that sector? She asked quietly. None close enough, Admiral. Our nearest battle group is 6 days away. The colonists will be dead long before we arrive. Admiral Sullivan walked to the large window overlooking the shipyards of Titan. Hundreds of workers moved like ants across the massive construction platforms. Most of the ships being built were traditional designs. Missile cruisers, plasma frigates, the same weapons that had failed against the Zephyrians time and again. But there was one ship that was different. One ship that might change everything. The USS Vengeance hung in the darkness like a sleeping giant. From the outside, it looked similar to other human warships. The same white hull, the same weapon ports, the same engine configuration. But inside, it carried something that had never been tested in real combat. Something that even Admiral Sullivan wasn't sure she understood. "Get me Captain Morrison," she ordered. Jake Morrison had been waiting for this call. He stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance watching his crew run final system checks. Every person on the ship knew they were different. They had trained with weapons no other humans had ever seen. They had learned to operate technology that seemed more like magic than science. Captain Morrison reporting. "Admiral," he said as her image appeared on his screen. "Jake, I need you to be honest with me. Is your ship ready for combat?" Morrison looked around his bridge. His first officer, Amy Brooks, nodded at him from her station. At the weapons console, Danny Rodriguez ran his hands over controls that could unleash power beyond imagination. Communications officer Tracy Williams monitored alien frequencies, her face tense with concentration. "We've run every simulation, Admiral. The weapon systems are functioning within acceptable parameters, but you know we've never used them against actual targets. I'm sending you the details of the New Vermont situation. You'll be going alone." The bridge fell silent. Even the quiet hum of the engines seemed to pause. Every crew member understood what that meant. One ship against 47. One untested weapon against the most powerful alien fleet in known space. "Understood, Admiral. When do we depart?" "Immediately. You have 72 hours to reach New Vermont. After that, 2 million people die." The connection ended, leaving Morrison alone with his crew and their impossible mission. He walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each of his officers. These men and women had volunteered for this assignment, knowing it might be suicide. They believed in the ship, in the weapon, in humanity's chance to finally fight back. "Chief Carter?" Morrison called to his chief engineer through the communication system. "Yes, Captain? Is the quantum disruption cannon ready for deployment?" There was a pause. Lisa Carter had spent 3 years building this weapon. She had watched it tear holes in empty space during testing. She had seen it erase asteroids from existence as if they had never been there at all. But using it against living beings was something else entirely. "The weapon is ready, Captain. All safety protocols are in place. But Jake, what we're carrying isn't just a gun. It's something that could change the nature of war itself." Morrison understood. The quantum disruption cannon didn't just destroy things. It removed them from reality completely. No explosion, no debris, no trace that they had ever existed. During testing, they had fired it at a small moon. The moon simply vanished, leaving behind only empty space and the terrified faces of the engineers who had built it. Set course for New Vermont, Morrison ordered. Maximum speed. The USS Vengeance turned away from Titan and accelerated toward the stars. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light in the darkness. Ahead lay the unknown, and 47 alien ships that had never faced anything like what was coming for them. In the depths of space near New Vermont, Fleet Commander Vextar studied the human colony through his ship's sensors. The planet looked peaceful from orbit. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds drifting across the surface. It was almost beautiful enough to make him reconsider his orders. Almost. Status report. He commanded in his harsh alien language. All ships are in position, Commander. The humans have made no attempt to evacuate. They appear to be accepting their fate. Vextar felt satisfaction flow through him. These humans were finally learning to respect Zephyrian power. For too long, the soft-skinned aliens had resisted the inevitable. They had fought back with their primitive weapons, forcing the Confederation to waste time and resources on prolonged battles. This would be different. 47 warships against a defenseless colony. The humans would surrender quickly, and Vextar would add another victory to his already impressive record. Commander, his sensor operator called out. I'm detecting a single ship approaching from the direction of Earth. It appears to be a human. Military vessel. Vextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. One ship? Are the humans truly that foolish? What class? Unknown design, Commander. The energy signature is unusual. Unusual how? I'm not certain, sir. The readings don't match any known human technology. Vextar studied the sensor display. One ship against his entire fleet. Either the humans were planning to surrender formally, or they had finally lost their minds completely. Either way, it would make no difference to the outcome. Maintain formation, he ordered. When the human ship arrives, we'll destroy it quickly as an example to the colonists below. Then we'll proceed with the planetary bombardment. The USS Vengeance continued its journey through hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of 2 million people and a weapon that could rewrite the rules of galactic warfare. In 72 hours, the galaxy would learn what happened when humanity decided to stop running and start fighting back. The USS Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Vermont system. Captain Morrison felt his stomach lurch as the ship's engines cut from faster-than-light travel to normal space. Through the main view screen, he could see the distant blue dot that was New Vermont, surrounded by dozens of alien ships like sharks circling wounded prey. Sensor sweep complete, Captain, reported Lieutenant Kevin Murphy from the navigation station. 47 Zephyrian vessels confirmed. They're arranged in a standard blockade formation around the planet. Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien ships were massive, each one twice the size of a traditional human cruiser. Their dark hulls bristled with weapon ports, and energy readings showed their shields were already active. They had been expecting resistance. Any sign they've detected us? Morrison asked. Yes, sir, replied Amy Brooks from her position as first officer. We're picking up increased chatter on their communication frequencies. They know we're here. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Fleet Commander Vextar stared at the sensor readings with growing amusement. The single human ship sat motionless at the system's edge, making no attempt to hide or retreat. It was smaller than most of his cruisers, with an energy signature that his computers couldn't quite identify. Range to target? He asked his weapons officer. 12 million kilometers. Commander, well within our plasma cannon range. And they're just sitting there? Yes, Commander. No evasive maneuvers, no weapon charges detected. They appear to be waiting. Vextar's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his species. These humans were even more foolish than he had imagined. Perhaps they thought their single ship could negotiate some kind of surrender terms. Or maybe they were planning some desperate suicide attack. It didn't matter. He would crush them quickly and move on to more important matters. Aboard the USS Vengeance, Communications Officer Tracy Williams turned to Captain Morrison with a worried expression. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian fleet. It's not very polite. Put it on screen, Morrison ordered. The image of Fleet Commander Vextar appeared on the main view screen. His reptilian features were twisted into what might have been a sneer. When he spoke, his voice was translated by the ship's computers into flat, mechanical English. Human vessel, you have entered a restricted military zone. Your planet is forfeit. Your colonies will serve the Confederation. Turn around and flee, or be destroyed with the rest of your pathetic species. Morrison stood up from his captain's chair and walked closer to the screen. Behind him, his crew watched silently, waiting for his response. 2 million lives depended on what happened in the next few minutes. Fleet Commander Vextar, Morrison said calmly. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Vengeance. I'm here to offer you one chance to withdraw peacefully from this system. Leave now, and no harm will come to your ships or crews. The alien commander's laughter echoed through the bridge speakers. Even translated by computer, the sound was filled with contempt and cruelty. One human ship offers terms to 47 Zephyrian warships? Your species truly has lost its mind. Very well, human. I will demonstrate the price of your arrogance. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the USS Vengeance in tense silence. Morrison returned to his chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage a superior enemy force. Every person on this ship volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for 2 million innocent people who cannot fight for themselves. All stations report ready. One by one, the department heads confirmed their status. Engineering reported all systems green. Weapons confirmed. The quantum disruption cannon was online. Medical reported all trauma bays prepared. The USS Vengeance was as ready as it would ever be. Fleet Commander Vextar studied the human ship through his tactical display. It continued to hang motionless in space, apparently making no preparations for battle. Its weapons remained powered down, its shields inactive. Either the humans were incredibly confident or they had already accepted death. Send the Razorwind, Bloodseeker, and Stormclaw, he ordered. Have them destroy the human ship quickly. I want the colonists below to see what happens to those who resist the Confederation. 3 of his fastest cruisers broke formation and accelerated toward the USS Vengeance. Their sleek hulls gleamed with deadly purpose, plasma cannons charging with deadly energy. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city, and they were moving at attack speed. Human ship is not responding, reported his communications officer. They're not even trying to run. Vextar felt a moment of unease. Something was wrong. No military commander, no matter how desperate, would face certain death without at least attempting to fight or flee. Unless... Commander, his sensor operator called out urgently. The human ship is powering up some kind of weapon system. I've never seen energy readings like this before. On the USS Vengeance, Captain Morrison watched the 3 alien ships approaching. On the tactical display, they would be in firing range in less than 30 seconds. Behind him, Weapons Officer Danny Rodriguez had his hands positioned over the quantum disruption cannon controls. Target the lead ship, Morrison ordered quietly. Targeting. System locked on, Captain. The weapon is ready to fire. Morrison took a deep breath. Once they used this weapon, there would be no going back. The galaxy would never be the same. But 2 million people were counting on them, and humanity needed to show that they could no longer be pushed around by alien powers. Fire, he said. Danny Rodriguez pressed the firing control. The quantum disruption cannon activated with no visible beam, no flash of light, no dramatic explosion. Instead, space itself seemed to twist and bend around the USS Vengeance. Reality rippled like water, and where the lead Zephyrian cruiser had been flying through space, there was suddenly nothing at all. The ship didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It simply ceased to exist, as if it had never been built, never been crewed, never been launched. A perfect sphere of empty space marked where it had been, slowly filling back in as the universe corrected itself. The other 2 attacking ships stopped their advance immediately, their captain staring at sensors that told them something impossible had just happened. Behind them, Fleet Commander Vextar watched his tactical display with growing horror. What happened to the Razorwind? He demanded. Unknown, Commander. It just disappeared. No explosion, no debris, no energy discharge. The ship is simply gone. Vexitar stared at the human vessel, which continued to float peacefully in space as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something that violated every law of physics he understood. Something that made his blood run cold despite his species' natural body temperature. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Vexitar felt afraid. On the bridge of the USS Vengeance, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had all seen the test firings, but using the weapon against a living target felt different. More final, more terrible. "Targets are holding position," reported Lieutenant Murphy quietly. "The remaining attack ships have stopped their approach." Captain Morrison activated the communication system again. When Fleet Commander Vexitar's image appeared on screen, the alien's confident expression had been replaced by something much more uncertain. "That was your demonstration, Commander," Morrison said calmly. "Your ship and crew are gone. No explosion, no wreckage, no survivors. They have been removed from existence itself. I'm offering you one more chance to withdraw. Don't make me remove the rest of your fleet the same way." The transmission ended, leaving 46 alien ships to contemplate a weapon that didn't just kill, but erased its targets from reality completely. Fleet Commander Vexitar stared at the empty space where the razor wind had been just moments before. His claws scratched against the metal armrest of his command chair as he tried to understand what he had witnessed. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. "Replay the sensor data," he ordered his bridge crew. The tactical display showed the attack again in slow motion, 3 ships advancing on the human vessel, weapons charged and ready to fire. Then the lead ship simply vanished. No weapon beam, no missile trail, no energy signature. One moment the razor wind was there, the next moment it was gone. "Analysis?" Vexitar demanded. His science officer, a thin creature with multiple eyes, trembled as he spoke. "Commander, our instruments show that a spherical section of space was removed. The matter within that sphere no longer exists. The vacuum left behind is slowly being filled by surrounding space-time. That's impossible." "Yes, Commander, but it happened." Vexitar looked at his remaining 46 ships on the tactical display. Each one contained hundreds of crew members, soldiers who had families waiting for them back home. The thought of them all simply ceasing to exist made him feel sick. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Conference call with all captains." Within minutes, the bridge screens filled with the faces of his subordinate commanders. Vexitar could see fear in their eyes, the same fear that was growing in his own chest. "Captain," Zekmore of the Bloodseeker spoke first. "Commander, my crew is requesting permission to withdraw. They're saying the humans have a weapon that can delete ships from reality." "That's ridiculous," snapped Captain Veltar from the Stormclaw. "No weapon can do that. It must be some kind of trick." "Then explain what happened to the razor wind," Captain Zekmore shot back. "Where is the debris? Where is the explosion? Where are the crew escape pods?" Vexitar held up a claw for silence. He needed to think clearly, but panic was spreading through his fleet like a disease. Half of his captains wanted to retreat immediately. The other half still believed they could win through superior numbers. Aboard the USS Vengeance, Captain, Morrison watched the alien fleet's communications with interest. Tracy Williams had managed to intercept and translate portions of their conversations, revealing the growing fear among the enemy commanders. "They're arguing among themselves," she reported. "Some want to attack us all at once, others want to flee the system immediately." Morrison nodded. The psychological effect of the quantum disruption cannon was working exactly as they had hoped. Fear was a weapon more powerful than any plasma cannon or missile system. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Lisa Carter from the engineering deck, "I need to report on the weapon's status." "Go ahead, Lisa." "The quantum disruption cannon is functioning within normal parameters, but each firing creates stress on our power systems. We can fire approximately 20 more times before we risk a complete power failure." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. 20 shots against 46 enemy ships. If the aliens decided to attack all at once, the USS Vengeance would be overwhelmed. Their only advantage was that the enemy didn't know about their limitations. "Understood," Morrison replied. "Let's hope we don't need that many shots." He turned to Danny Rodriguez at the weapons station. Target that large asteroid in the outer system, the one that's roughly the size of a small moon. Rodriguez's eyes widened as he understood the captain's plan. Aye, sir. Targeting the asteroid now. Fleet Commander Vextar was still arguing with his captains when his sensor operator interrupted with an urgent report. Commander. The human ship is charging its weapon again. They're targeting the asteroid field in the outer system. Why would they target rocks? Vextar wondered aloud. The answer came seconds later when the USS Vengeance fired its quantum disruption cannon at the massive asteroid. The rock, which had been drifting through space for millions of years, simply vanished. In its place was a perfect sphere of emptiness that slowly filled back in as space corrected itself. The silence on Vextar's bridge was complete. The asteroid had been 3 kilometers across, large enough to be visible on their long-range sensors. If the human weapon could erase something that large, what hope did their ships have? Commander, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving another transmission from the human ship. Captain Morrison's image appeared on the main screen. His expression was calm and confident, showing no sign of the stress he was actually feeling. Fleet Commander Vexitar Morrison said, you just witnessed a demonstration of our capabilities. That asteroid was approximately the same size as your largest battleship. The quantum disruption field could theoretically be expanded to affect multiple targets simultaneously, or even scaled up to planetary size. Morrison was bluffing about the planetary capability, but Vextar didn't know that. The alien commander's face had gone pale, his reptilian features twisted with fear. I'm broadcasting the complete sensor data of both weapon discharges to your entire fleet, Morrison continued. Your science officers can analyze the readings and confirm what you're seeing. This is not a trick or an illusion. This is a new class of weapon that your shields cannot stop and your armor cannot protect against. The transmission paused, letting the implications sink in throughout the Zephyrian fleet. However, Morrison said, his voice becoming more diplomatic, I'm not here to destroy your fleet. I'm here to save the lives of 2 million human colonists. Withdraw from this system immediately, and your ships and crews will be allowed to leave unharmed. You have 30 minutes to begin your departure. The screen went dark, leaving Vextar alone with the most difficult decision of his military career. On the bridge of the USS Vengeance, Dr. Sandra Pierce approached Captain Morrison with a datapad in her hands. Captain, I've been analyzing the quantum effects of our weapon. The readings are disturbing. How so? Each time we fire, we're not just destroying matter. We're creating temporary holes in the fabric of space-time itself. The universe repairs these holes quickly, but if we fired too many times in one location, we could create permanent damage to reality. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility growing heavier on his shoulders. The weapon that was saving 2 million lives could potentially threaten the entire galaxy if misused. How many times can we safely fire? He asked. Unknown, Captain. We're in completely uncharted territory. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, panic was spreading like wildfire. Captain after captain was calling Fleet Commander Vextar, demanding permission to retreat. The sensor data from the asteroid destruction had confirmed their worst fears. The human weapon could erase anything from existence. On the planet below, the human colonists watched the alien ships through telescopes and hoped desperately that rescue was coming. They had no idea that their salvation hung in the balance of one alien commander's pride versus his crew's survival. Vextar looked at his chronometer. 28 minutes remained before the human deadline expired. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders that could save their lives or doom them all. The fleet commander of the Zephyrian Confederation faced the hardest choice any military leader could make: fight against impossible odds, or surrender, without a battle and lose everything he had spent his life building. The countdown continued, and 46 alien warships hung in space, waiting for a decision that would echo throughout the galaxy. The 30-minute deadline was counting down to 0 when Fleet Commander Vextar made his choice. He could not bring himself to order a retreat, not after conquering so many human worlds. His pride and his military record meant more to him than the lives of his crews. All ships, attack formation, he ordered through gritted teeth. "We will overwhelm the human vessel with coordinated fire from all directions. No single weapon can destroy 46 ships at once." The response from his captains was immediate and desperate. Captain Zekmore's voice crackled through the communication system first. "Commander, this is madness. You saw what happened to the Razor Wind. You saw what they did to that asteroid." "I saw tricks and illusions," Vexitar snapped back, though he didn't believe his own words. "We are Zephyrian warriors. We do not flee from a single enemy ship." Captain Veltar from the Stormclaw supported him. "The commander is right. If we run now, we'll be laughing stocks throughout the galaxy. Better to die fighting than live as cowards." But other voices joined the argument. Captain Mordak of the Night Hunter spoke with fear in his voice. "That weapon doesn't just kill ships, it erases them from existence. Our families will never even know how we died because there won't be anything left of us to find." The argument continued for precious minutes as the deadline approached. Some captains prepared their weapons for attack while others quietly began charging their engines for retreat. The Zephyrian fleet was splitting apart from within. On the USS Vengeance, communications officer Tracy Williams monitored the increasingly panicked alien communications. She turned to Captain Morrison with a worried expression. "Captain, they're breaking up into two groups. About half the fleet is preparing to attack us. The other half wants to withdraw." Morrison studied the tactical display. 23 ships moving into attack positions while 23 others held back. This was exactly what he had hoped to avoid. A partial attack would force him to use more of their limited ammunition while still leaving enemy ships intact. "Danny, can you target multiple ships with one shot?" Morrison asked his weapons officer. Rodriguez shook his head. "No, sir. The quantum disruption field affects a specific area of space. We'd need the ships to be very close together to hit more than one at a time." First Officer Amy Brooks had an idea. "Captain, what if we don't target the ships directly? What if we target something that will send a message to the entire fleet?" Morrison looked at her with interest. "What do you have in mind?" Brooks pointed to the tactical display. "Fleet Commander Vextar's flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. It's the largest ship in their formation, and clearly their command vessel. If we can disable it without destroying it completely, we might break their will to fight." It was a risky plan. The quantum disruption cannon had never been used for precision strikes. It either erased things completely or didn't affect them at all. But Morrison realized they had to try something different. "Danny, can you target just the weapon systems on the flagship? Leave the crew sections intact?" Rodriguez studied his controls carefully. "It's possible, Captain. The disruption field can be focused to a smaller area, but if I miscalculate, we could erase the entire ship with everyone aboard." Morrison made his decision. "Do it. Target their main weapon array." The attack came without warning. 23 Zephyrian ships opened fire simultaneously, sending streams of plasma energy racing toward the USS Vengeance. The human ship's shields flared as they absorbed the incoming fire, energy readings climbing toward dangerous levels. "Shields at 60% and falling," reported Lieutenant Paul Nelson from the tactical station. "We can't take many more hits like that." Morrison watched as Fleet Commander Vextar's flagship moved into position, its massive weapon arrays swiveling to target the USS Vengeance. The Destroyer of Worlds was preparing to add its firepower to the assault. "Fire," Morrison ordered. The quantum disruption cannon activated with its characteristic twisting of space-time. This time, instead of erasing an entire ship, it surgically removed only the forward weapon array of the Zephyrian flagship. The main plasma cannons, missile tubes, and energy projectors simply ceased to exist, leaving behind smooth metal where the weapons had been mounted. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was immediate and devastating. The Destroyer of Worlds, their most powerful ship, had been rendered helpless in an instant. Not destroyed, not damaged in the traditional sense, but simply disarmed with surgical precision. Fleet Commander Vextar stared at his weapon displays, in horror. Every system showed the same impossible reading: weapons not found. The entire forward battery of his flagship had been deleted from reality, leaving his ship defenseless against any counterattack. "How is this possible?" he whispered. His science officer was frantically running diagnostics. "Commander, the quantum effect was precisely controlled. They removed only the weapons systems, leaving everything else untouched. The precision required for such an attack is beyond our understanding." The 23 ships that had been attacking the USS Vengeance suddenly stopped firing. Their captains realized that if the humans could selectively erase weapon systems, they could pick apart the entire fleet piece by piece. No ship would be safe, no armor would provide protection. Captain Morrison opened a communication channel to the entire Zephyrian fleet. His voice was calm and steady as he addressed the alien commanders. "Fleet Commander Vextar, your flagship has been disarmed but not destroyed. Your crew is alive and unharmed. This demonstrates that we can choose exactly what to remove from existence. We could have erased your entire command section, but we chose mercy instead." On the bridge of the Destroyer of Worlds, Vextar felt his military career crumbling around him. The human had shown him mercy, something no Zephyrian commander would have done in the same situation. Morrison continued his broadcast. "To all Zephyrian ships, you have now seen what our weapon can do to your most powerful vessel. We can disable your engines, remove your shields, or erase your ships entirely. The choice is yours. Withdraw now, or face the consequences of continued aggression." The effect spread beyond the immediate battle. Throughout Zephyrian space, other fleet commanders were receiving reports of the impossible weapon. Admiral Kethamore, the supreme military leader of the Confederation, watched the battle unfold through long-range sensors and communication intercepts. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from multiple sector commanders. Word of the human weapon is spreading through our communication networks. Several invasion fleets are requesting permission to withdraw from human space." Admiral Kethamore studied the tactical reports. One human ship had effectively neutered the largest Zephyrian fleet ever assembled. If this weapon could be mass-produced, the entire balance of galactic power would shift overnight. "Send a message to all our commanders," he ordered reluctantly. "Suspend all operations against human targets until further notice. We need to reassess our strategy." Back at New Vermont, the tide of battle had turned completely. Captain Zekmore was the first to break formation, turning his ship away from the planet and beginning the journey home. Other captains quickly followed, their crews relieved to escape with their lives. Fleet Commander Vextar found himself almost alone, his flagship disabled, and his fleet abandoning him. Only a handful of loyal captains remained, waiting for his final orders. The proud commander who had conquered dozens of human worlds faced the most humiliating moment of his career, but as he looked at his crew, soldiers who trusted him to keep them alive, he realized that pride was less important than their survival. "All remaining ships," he said quietly into his communicator, "withdraw from the system. The battle is over." The last Zephyrian warships turned away from New Vermont and disappeared into hyperspace. For the first time in over a year, human colonists were safe from alien attack. The USS Vengeance had won a victory that would reshape the galaxy, and they had done it without killing a single enemy soldier. But Captain Morrison knew this was only the beginning. Word of their weapon would spread throughout the galaxy, and humanity would never be seen as weak again. 3 days after the battle at New Vermont, Fleet Commander Vextar sat alone in his quarters aboard the disabled Destroyer of Worlds. His ship drifted powerless in space, waiting for rescue vessels from the Confederation. The forward section, where his weapons had been, was now just smooth metal, as if the guns had never existed at all. A message arrived on his personal communication device. It was from the human ship that had defeated him. "Fleet Commander Vextar," Captain Morrison's voice said through the translator. "This is Captain Morrison of the USS Vengeance. I'm sending you coordinates for a neutral meeting point. I believe we need to talk." Vextar stared at the message for a long time. In his culture, defeated commanders were usually executed or exiled in shame. The idea that his enemy wanted to meet with him was beyond his understanding. But something in the human captain's voice suggested this was not about humiliation or surrender terms. 2 hours later, Vextar found himself aboard the USS Vengeance. The human ship's interior was surprisingly clean and bright, very different from the dark, cramped corridors of Zephyrian vessels. Captain Morrison met him in a small conference room, accompanied by only his first officer, Amy Brooks. "Thank you for coming," Morrison said, gesturing for Vextar to sit. "I wanted to speak with you about what happens next." Vextar's translator converted his harsh alien language into English. "You wish to discuss surrender terms? The Confederation will not negotiate with humans." Morrison shook his head. "I'm not interested in your surrender, Commander. I'm interested in preventing a war that will destroy both our species." The alien commander's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "What do you mean?" "Your people have been attacking human colonies for over a year," Morrison explained. "We built this weapon to defend ourselves, but if we use it to attack your worlds, millions of innocent Zephyrians will die. I don't want that to happen." Vexatar was quiet for a moment, processing what he had heard. "You could destroy our homeworlds. Why would you choose not to?" "Because destroying your civilization won't bring back the humans you've already killed. It will only create more death and suffering." Amy Brooks leaned forward. "We've been monitoring your communications, Commander. Your government is already recalling invasion fleets from human space. Word of our weapon has spread throughout your military." Vextar nodded slowly. "Admiral Kethmore has suspended all operations against human targets. Our scientists are trying to understand how your weapon works, but they say it's impossible according to known physics." Morrison stood up and walked to a small window showing the stars outside. "The quantum disruption cannon is based on human theoretical physics that we've only recently learned to apply. We're the only species in the galaxy that has developed this technology." "Then you could conquer the entire galaxy," Vextar said quietly. "We could," Morrison agreed, "but we won't. Humanity doesn't want to rule over other species. We just want to be left alone to build our lives in peace." The meeting lasted for 2 more hours. When it ended, Vextar returned to his ship with a recording of the conversation and detailed sensor readings of the quantum disruption cannon's effects. Morrison had given him everything he needed to convince his government that continued war with humanity would be suicide. Within a week, the recordings reached the highest levels of the Zephyrian government. The Confederation Council, a group of 7 alien species that had dominated this region of the galaxy for centuries, gathered in emergency session. Admiral Kethmore presented the evidence to the assembled leaders. The holographic display showed the complete destruction of the Razor Wind, the surgical removal of weapons from the Destroyer of Worlds, and the impossible erasure of a 3-kilometer asteroid. "The humans possess a weapon that can delete matter from existence," Kethmore reported. "Our shields cannot stop it. Our armor cannot protect against it. If they choose to use it against our home worlds, entire planets could be erased." Council. Leader Zarthok, eldest of the Zephyrian ruling class, studied the data with growing alarm. "How many of these weapons do they possess?" "Unknown, Leader. We have confirmed only 1 ship, but they may have others under construction." The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Some council members wanted to launch a massive preemptive strike against Earth before humanity could build more quantum disruption cannons. Others argued for immediate peace negotiations. A few suggested trying to steal or copy the human technology. In the end, fear won over pride. The Zephyrian Confederation formally requested a ceasefire with humanity and opened diplomatic channels for the first time in their species' history. The news spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. The Andromedan Trade Consortium, a group of merchant species that had remained neutral in most conflicts, immediately sent ambassadors to Earth. They wanted to establish trade relations with the species that had defeated the Zephyrians without firing a shot in anger. The silicon-based collective, ancient artificial intelligences who rarely interacted with biological species, sent their first diplomatic message to humanity in over 1,000 years. Even the mysterious void dwellers who lived in the empty spaces between stars reached out to establish contact. On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan found herself overwhelmed with diplomatic requests. Species that had ignored humanity for decades were suddenly eager to be friends. The balance of galactic power had shifted overnight. "How many more ships like the Vengeance can we build?" she asked Chief Engineer Lisa Carter during a private meeting. Carter looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, each quantum disruption cannon requires rare elements that are extremely difficult to obtain. We might be able to build 2 or 3 more ships over the next 5 years, but mass production is impossible with current technology." Sullivan nodded. "Then we need to be very careful about how we use the reputation we've gained. The galaxy thinks we have dozens of these weapons." "What about Captain Morrison and the Vengeance?" Carter asked. "I'm promoting him to Commodore and giving him command of a new patrol group. The Vengeance will continue to patrol the frontier, making sure everyone knows that humanity can defend itself." 6 months later, Commodore Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance as it approached the edge of human space. They had just completed a diplomatic mission to the Andromedan Trade Consortium, where Morrison had signed humanity's first major interstellar trade agreement. "Commodore," Communications Officer Tracy Williams reported, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." Morrison read the message and smiled. 3 more human colonies had been established in the past month, the first new settlements since the Zephyrian attacks had begun. Families were moving to the stars again, confident that they would be protected. The quantum disruption cannon had changed everything, not because it had destroyed enemies, but because it had made war too terrible to contemplate. The weapon that could erase anything from existence had become humanity's shield, protecting not just human lives but preserving peace throughout the galaxy. As the USS Vengeance continued its patrol, Morrison reflected on how a single battle had transformed humanity from a minor species struggling to survive into a major galactic power. They had gained respect, not through conquest, but through the terrifying effectiveness of their deterrent. The human warship that enemies chose, Capitulation, over battle had become a symbol of a new age in galactic politics, an age where the threat of ultimate destruction had made actual war unthinkable, and where humanity's greatest weapon was not the quantum disruption cannon itself, but the fear it inspired in those who might do them harm. The stars were safe for human expansion, and the galaxy had learned that sometimes the most powerful weapon was the one you never had to use.